Now we present to you America's quintessential iconoclastic anomaly. Wow. In talk radio, your host, Joe Cristiano.
Those who oppose legislation to increase the minimum wage to a living wage could be categorized as cruel, uncaring, selfish, heartless, self-serving, and of course narcissistic, and just plain inhumane. Now, those people who agree with a living wage are, of course, altruistic, benevolent, charitable, generous, humane, and magnanimous. What else could I say? The debate is over. We have already classified both camps. And quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think either camp has it right, at least from what I have heard, except for what I have read from people who understand our country. But very few people, and I'm certain even the people who are listening to this broadcast, read the type of material that I engage in. Most will read the newspaper or watch the television set, and they will hear this infinitum, in ad nauseum, as they say. Well, we have lost our ability to think, as you know, and unfortunately, as a result, we cannot think clearly through this dilemma, this issue. And every time I see a picture or a video of a minority screaming for a livable wage with their T-shirt saying, I am the 15 or something like that on it, meaning $15 livable wage, and everyone's sort of giving credence to this, I think to myself, how will we ever survive as a nation? Now, I'm going to go back a little bit. You're going to have to bear with me, because without understanding this, we do not have a solution. We will not have a true understanding.
But it's always interesting when you go back.
Yeah.
It really is, because history repeats itself.
Right. I mean, people, thank you, Jim. By the way, today we have Derek is in our studio. He's visiting with us. Of course, my lovely wife, Erin. And Lane is with us. Hello, Lane. Nice to see you back. He's our assistant technician. Of course, we have our big kahuna here.
Big kahuna.
Big kahuna, Gary, and his lovely wife, Ann.
Don't be making comments about my weight.
Right?
Right?
Yeah.
He is a kahuna, all right. But let's go back to school, to elementary school.
Can't wait.
Here, it is rare that you will ever hear a teacher talk about the free enterprise system, something which should be embedded in everyone's mind. It is rare that you will hear a teacher speak about the precepts of the Constitution.
Well, especially if they're, against Common Core, I mean.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they have their issues. Now, why is that? Well, you see, our teachers, and all the teachers I know, are really wonderful people. They truly care. They dedicate their lives to their students. But unfortunately, the way they became a teacher is that they memorized what was given to them and approved by the government.
Yeah.
As a result, they passed all of these tests, and by the way, there is no need to think, because it's all there for you.
All there for you to memorize.
Yeah, just memorize, pass the test, get your certificate, do a good job, and repeat the same. And when there is a change, we will let you know. There will be a revision. You will receive a memo through your school board or your superintendent. And then you are to initiate the change in your classroom. Very few of these teachers that I know and I love, they're wonderful people, can discuss any subject today at all.
I hope they call tonight and give you hell.
Yeah.
I hope they do.
Oh boy, some teacher ought to call.
Really, I mean,
It'd be fun.
I really wish they would, because I mean, again,
Better
I'm
him
not
than
talking
me.
against the teacher. I'm talking about the system that made
I
them the
know.
teacher.
I
Please
know.
do not misunderstand me.
No, I know.
And that's a real problem. We always are afraid to hurt someone's feelings. This has nothing to do with feelings.
Right.
You would think that if a teacher understood the Constitution, understood why America separates itself from every other country, is because we should be, and we are not, but we should be a free enterprise system. And we should be telling our students that we should be a free enterprise system, but we are not, and delineate all the reasons why we are not. They should be upset. In fact, they should be at the forefront of starting a revolution in this country and encouraging the students to do the same. When they receive a history book, which is approved again by the school board, not by the school board, but given to the school board, saying, you will approve this, you will use this gun, nothing is challenged. We teach our students, our children, comic book history. I doubt if much of what is taught in American history today is actually factual. I would love to do a program or a series of programs on just one chapter of an American history book. We'd have a ball with that. So what we do is whatever the teacher was told to memorize, they are regurgitating to the students. But are they walking out of those parameters and telling the students, listen, you won't hear this anyplace else, but you will hear it here. This country should be a free enterprise system, and this is what that means. Not a matter of, well, you can go into business for yourself and then get your license from the government. No. Understand what a free enterprise system is.
They just care about they just care about their kids making money, and that's what it's all about. It doesn't help regardless of who it helps, if you're making money, that's all they care about is.
Well, yeah, they base their money. You want to get a good job. You want to get a good job. The only precept is you want to get a good job. What you do,
And you want to go in debt.
You know,
you want to go in debt, Joe. Don't forget that.
that's right.
Oh, yeah,
You get a good mark. You graduate and get a good mark. And that's baloney. And this is what they're learning now. It's all baloney. Yeah. You see, when in fact the minimum wage, or now a livable wage, which we're going to get to, through this venue through this avenue, but when they talk about the living wage, what the teachers should be saying, they should say, what do you mean livable wage? That, or even minimum wage, that is not a minimum wage or a livable wage. It's government control. It's government control salaries. And that's what we abhor when the Soviet Union did it.
Oh, that sounds, is communism or something?
Something like that.
They say that is one of the precepts of communism, and we are initiating it here. That's what they should be saying. But if you told that to a teacher now, they'd look at you and go, huh, how can you say that? They would not understand at all. No. And again, I'm not being disrespectful to teachers.
Well, you don't get a grade for challenging what they say.
Not only that, you don't get a grade. You get sent to the principal's office.
Exactly.
I mean, come on, let's be honest. They should be saying, the students should understand that when there is government control of wages, that is... Right? What
communism.
Is that? Yeah, right.
Can somebody say communism? That's what it is.
That's what it is.
Say it.
It's very simple. But we don't do that. So when the kids come out, they go, well, I've never been taught that. Then the debate is, should we have a minimum wage or a livable wage, and how much should it be? And that subject should not even be discussed. That's not the issue.
That's for the individual.
The issue is that we have a government controlling wages. And that flies in the face of every precept of the Constitution. But we don't teach the Constitution. There's our problem.
Why do they want to raise the wage if our money's worth anything at all? I mean, it's going down. That's why they have to raise.
Yeah, and you know what we should do is everyone should be making what in the 19 something or 1920. The minimum wage was $20, 50 cents an hour.
Yeah.
We should say it should be 50 cents an hour. They're going to be, wait, what about inflation? We didn't create that. The government did.
Exactly.
Don't blame me. I'll pay you 50 cents. You get the other $6.75 from the government. Now, that's the way it should work.
You know, what they're doing is just they're bringing the bar down to $15 an hour. Why should somebody be satisfied with $15 an hour? This is America. They can make 25 or 30.
Absolutely. Well, see, so we're not discussing the real problem. The real problem is government intervention in the free marketplace, which is no longer free. We should be discussing that we do not have a free marketplace. We have government intervention, and we have basically price controls on salary. Now, you can't have a free market system. Now, we're going to get into the individual. So that's on the outside, all right? Now we're going to start getting on the inside, right? The big argument is Walmart makes billions and billions of dollars. Why can't they pay us more? Well, let me turn the tables this way. What if Walmart had a year where they lost money? Would you work for free? I mean, come on. I mean, if that's your line of thinking, if you want to get paid, now, in many cases, you will get paid if a company is very profitable. You know, if you own the company stock, you may get a bigger dividend. You know, people may get bonuses, and that happens. And that happens in my company. I give out bonuses all the time. But when things are bad, guess what? No bonuses. And people know when things are bad, everyone buckles down. Now, let's talk about when do we go to break?
We got about a minute and a half.
Okay. Well, what I want to discuss is that when we look for a job, what is that process? Is that process a company hiring a person under government wage controls? Is that the way we look at a job? When a kid is in school, and understand that in this good old United States, in all the major cities, and I consider, but this includes Oklahoma City and Tulsa, the graduation rate is 51%. In other words, only 51% of the students in high school in major cities in the United States graduate. We have a 49% dropout. Now, what happened? Now, we're talking millions of kids. These kids they don't even have a diploma that means nothing. Where are these kids going to get a job? Now, if one of these kids get a job with Walmart, are they going to be paid $15 an hour? Are they going to be paid the same amount as the student who graduated with straight A's and gets a job?
Who knows?
I mean, where's the fairness? Well, everyone says, well, to hell, why do I have to work? Everyone's being the same. Guess what? This is what happened in Greece. This is what happened in the Soviet Union. This is what destroyed them all. Why should I work? No problem. I mean, I'm going to get $15 an hour. I'll just have a great time and party, get paid $15 an hour because that's a livable wage for me and have a great time. I'll make the government, and then when I need more money, I'll wait for the government to pressure Walmart to give me more.
That's what's being promoted right now. Seems like.
Let's take a break now. I need a swig of coffee. The structure of our school system is really a culprit here, together with the ideology of our government to indoctrinate our kids to rely on the government for about everything. And of course, we're losing what this country was really meant to be, why it was established the way it was. You would think that in school, a emphasis would be every single day, how will what I am learning today prepare me to be an adult? How will what I'm learning today, prepare me to get a job where I can function in society, where I can be self-sufficient? What am I learning today, that is helpful or useful for me to decide what I want to do? How do I use this information? And guess what, folks? When our kids graduate the high school, you know what? Even those that graduate with relatively good grades, they wind up with a reading level of 5th to 7th grade. Remember, reading, writing, arithmetic, right? They can write a little bit. Grammar is horrible, right? And their arithmetic, God help us. And so a kid, and employers know that. Employers know that our graduates today, that when they graduate high school, they are qualified to do nothing. There's your problem. You are qualified to do nothing, and school has prepared you exactly that way. Now, when someone applies for a job, what is that transaction? In a free enterprise system, which even Barack Obama says we have a free enterprise system. Free enterprise system, it's a matter of supply and demand. What do you bring to the table as an employee, and what is the employer willing to pay? Very simple. Now, if you come to an employer, and you have no skills, you didn't graduate high school, you just blew it off, and you just need a job, right? Then Walmart, whoever it is, should say, fine, I'll hire you. We'll put you in the warehouse under close supervision for the first 6 months. You'll start at $1 an hour. And that's the way it should be. You screwed up in school, because if you had a high school education and you presented yourself well instead of coming in like a gang rapper, then maybe they would have offered you $2.50 or $5 or $7 an hour. But you blew it. That's personal responsibility, and that's what the teachers should be preparing you for. They should be preparing you for that first interview, and for you to decide where you're going to have that interview. What store you're going to have? You want to be an accountant? You want to be a carpenter? You want to be a bricklayer? You want to be an engineer? Whatever you want to be. They should be at least putting you in that direction, rather than cookie cutting everyone, putting 30 kids in a room, asking them to memorize, and God forbid they ask a question that's not in the books, you go to the principal's office. And that's what we have today. And employers know that. Employers know kids who graduate high school don't know anything. They have no skills. We all know that. And now what's bad is that our colleges are turning into high schools.
Expensive ones.
Very expensive ones. And what they're doing is, because the government is paying the bill, there's colleges all over this town, by the way. Every time I drive around, a new college pops up, named like,
A new
Billy
business
Bob's College, Academia, never heard of these things before. Well, they're getting money. Now, the reason why no one fails these colleges, because if they fail out, they lose their funding.
Exactly,
So they make sure the students are there, and when they graduate, guess what? They graduate like they graduated high school. They have no skills, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nothing to offer.
Well, as long as their numbers are up, that's all that matters to them.
Yeah.
They're getting the money.
Right.
It's all about the money.
When you have this exchange, and it should be a free exchange. Someone's offering you a job. Someone's offering themselves to do that job. And that's where the wage should be determined. It shouldn't be determined by government fiat. It has nothing to do with it.
And Joe, we've talked about this many, many times before, that academia is so much a bigger business than business itself.
Absolutely right.
It really is.
It's profitable, and people make big money in it, And what really bothers me is that if the teachers had a half a brain cell, they would say, well, this is a free enterprise system. The reason why unions were started was because they needed to be protected from ill-meaning employers, that didn't care about them and were harmful, and they had worked in very dangerous workplaces, etc. And they needed somebody to protect the workers. And back then, that was probably justified. But you know what? Guess what, folks? Guess what? Oh, and by the way, and that was government sanctioned, and the government sort of backed the unions and everything, right? So the government is part of that process. Now, when they have a professional job, they have master's degree in teaching, right? What do? Is they join a union. Well, who are they? Who's the bad guy? Who is?
Yeah.
Is it the government? Wait, the government is the entity that's supposed to be protecting them, And yet, now that they are working basically for the government, they have a union to protect themselves from their protector. I'm going nuts.
Well, hey, listen, how
I'm
about the kid that's sitting there and he knows he's going to get $15 an hour, so why should he spell any better, read any better, cipher any better? Why should he care? And the teacher ought to be saying, this is pertinent information I'm giving you, because you know what, when you go out and get a job, if you do it better than the next guy, you're going to make more money.
Right, absolutely. I mean, that should be part
Hello?
of that shouldn't be said, but it should.
But it should be part of it.
Right. Yeah.
So the union is basically a form of socialism.
Oh,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's price control. Yeah. It's price control because I mean, who's the bad guy there? They're working for the They're working for the good guy, the government. But now they need, now they need a union to protect themselves from the good guy.
themselves.
What else do you need? Right.
It doesn't make sense,
Yeah,
does
it doesn't make any sense. And the teachers all wait for their contracts. And I have a teacher in my family, and the only time she took a day off from, an illegal day off from work is when they went to Oklahoma City to protest their salary and they wanted an increase. She called in sick, that crap, and she went, other than that, she is totally apolitical. But boy, when it comes to her salary, boy, she becomes, a radical. Well, my point being is that we're teaching all the wrong principles. Now, when you apply for a job, it's an exchange. What do you have to offer? What do you have to offer? The employer, and that's where the salary is determined. Well, now when you have a minimum wage, it doesn't make any difference anymore. Well, what happened to the free enterprise system?
Well, the wage deal already commits all businesses as bad people,
Yeah.
and all of them are in the business not to give you anything good, and that's not even true.
Oh, yeah, they said, well, the argument is that if you didn't have a minimum wage, companies would pay you nothing.
That's
you want
not
to know
true.
something? Well, no, wait, maybe that's true.
Some would,
Remember, if you're
sure.
gang rapping, walking, hey, man, how you doing, like that, and you need someone who speaks English, I'm sorry, you're not going to get a job. We're going to put you in the warehouse for 25 cents an hour, and you're lucky to get that. That's my point. The point is that you're lucky to get what you get. You make what you get.
You make yourself invaluable.
And young kids that when they get a job, young people when they get a job out of high school, they should take any job that they can to prove themselves.
Well, why haven't they got a job in the first place before they get out of high school? That's my
Yeah.
beef.
Oh yeah, I worked before. Yeah,
I
I worked
did
before.
Mow
too. Since I was
lawns,
13.
do stuff like that. Yeah.
I learned just basics of
You're not
how
gonna
to
believe
provide
this.
a service.
Yeah, I worked in a camera store on was it Castle Hill Avenue? I don't remember. I worked in a camera store.
I wasn't born yet, Joe.
No pay. There was no pay. I wanted to work there because I loved cameras.
Isn't that cool?
I thought it was so cool. And I walked in. This guy was Benny,
Benny.
And I forget, yeah, Benny. And a big, tall guy, big, bald, fat guy, looked like a cartoon character. He really did, nice guy. And I said, hey, I want a job. He says, I can't afford you. I said, no, I'll work for free.
Boy, his
You're
eyes
kidding me.
perked up then, didn't they?
And you know what he did? I showed up every afternoon. I showed up, and then at the end of the week, depending on how well the camera store did, he'd give me some pay. I have no idea how much he paid me. It was never minimum, whatever it was, but he paid me. But I learned something from there. I learned a lot in that job.
Well, you
And he
learned
took a risk. You could have been a thief.
Oh, yeah, right.
exactly.
Yeah.
He took a risk to help you.
You learned customer relations. You learned about the products and how to sell them.
They would arrest him.
And you
anyway.
know something? I did a
Today they
lousy
learn
job.
something.
No,
you
I-
didn't, you
I
didn't memorize
realized-
anything.
I realized how little I knew. I did a real lousy job. I really did. I didn't. I realized, it's easy. You get behind the counter and you realize you just don't know what to do. But I learned from that. But see, the government wants to take that away. They say you have to pay a minimum wage. Well, what do you think that does? What do you think the employer does? The employer does. Employers,
I know what they do.
They don't
The,
have,
the employer is going to pick the people with the highest qualifications if they have to pay a high wage anyway. So what's that going to do? That is going to
The upstarts never
Yeah.
get a chance.
exactly
You're right.
those people that this law is designed to protect are not going to be protected.
right.
They're not going to get the job.
you're talking about a livable wage. That's $15.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah. Now, if you're going to pay now just think if you're going to pay $15 an hour, right? What about that employee that started maybe at $5 an hour when before the $7 minimum wage, and now they started at $5.15 when it was $5.15, and now they're making $15.50, let's say, right? And they work themselves to be a supervisor.
Yeah.
Isn't Obama proposing a $12 an hour living wage?
Well, I don't know what he's proposing. What he proposes in material, they want 15. The riots or whatever the marching things is $15 an hour,
the
and it
protest
could
is.
be. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, and so
But all of it's
you have this
ludicrous.
person who's been there for a few years, worked really hard, worked from $5 an hour to $15
And
an
they're
hour,
worth it. And they're worth it. Yeah.
and then El Jerko comes in and starts at $15 an hour.
He don't know nothing.
What is going to happen with the incentive, of that person who now is making
Oh, yeah.
$15 an hour that worked themselves through? You literally destroy the entire work environment. Well, the Walmart is going to be forced to take that person's salary and raise it proportionally. Well, now you have a person that they feel the job is only worth $15 an hour, and it's now $23 or $25 an hour. It's no longer the low-cost place.
Yeah, so who's going to pay that? The
Yeah.
consumer, the employer's not going to eat it.
Yeah. And the consumer's not going to pay that because they'll go to a dollar store,
Right.
or they'll go to Target, or they'll go someplace else.
So the quality of goods becomes cheaper,
Yeah.
not as well made. I mean, it's counterproductive in every
Supply
area.
and demand.
Absolutely, it distorts. Is this time for a break? Don't go away. We'll be back.
Less than 3% of you people read books. Less than 15% of you read newspapers. Because the only truth you know is what you get over this tube. So if you want the truth, go to yourselves. Because that's the only place you're ever going to find any real truth. You're beginning to believe the illusions we're spinning here. You do whatever the tube tells you. You dress like the tube. You eat like the tube. You raise your children like the tube. You even think like the tube. This is mass madness, you maniac.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
I love that.
Oh, man,
And the
that's
other
a
one I like is,
classic.
I want to know the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Yeah.
I love those two comments. We don't have 3 hours usually on many of the talk show programs. I notice because I listen to several of them, most of them on 1170 KFAQ. Just to hear what they're talking about and their tempo and how they do things. Well, many of them are 3 hours. So, boy, they ramble along and they talk. It's leisurely, and they can take an hour on one subject. It's okay. They got 2 hours to go. We don't have
that luxury, do you?
So we try to ram a lot of stuff in. I know I get complaints like, boy, it was too hot and heavy. Why don't you slow down? I said, well, I wish I could, I'd love to know how many times the fact that the minimum wage, or even that we have now, or we've ever had, actually is enacted violates the very principles of the Constitution. I want to know how many times that's said in school. And what do you think? Do you think it's ever said? Do you think it's ever mentioned? Never mentioned in school.
Right.
The whole concept of our country and what it stood for is not taught in school. Not at all. And we really come out of school thinking that we should be grateful that the government, is looking out for the poor small guy. Yeah. Oh, we got a caller on the line. Let's take it. Uh-oh. Did I do something wrong? Is he online?
Right there, Lloyd from Henrietta.
Yeah, Lloyd, there you are. Okay, Lloyd. Good evening.
Yeah, you hit one of my hot button.
Uh-oh. Here we go.
All right, you're for a livable wage, right?
Yeah, I certainly am. Yes.
Good.
I am. When you talk about free market, that's a basic characteristic of capitalism. Free market capitalism is the system that's based upon voluntary exchange of capital. And
Absolutely.
Capital formation, capital liquidation. Free market capitalism is that system, and without an efficient mechanism, a means of exchange, which would be money, in order to voluntarily exchange representations of your capital, you can't really have a free market system. And of course, our monetary system is based on debt.
Right.
And our money cannot be any kind of an accurate representation of our actual capital. And without an accurate measure of our capital, wages and prices cannot be efficiently judged.
Right.
So
You're right.
yeah, so you can
That's
get
it. Yeah.
you can get rid of the minimum wage, you can get rid of your unions, you can get rid of price controls, and you'll still not have a free market enterprise capitalistic system because the Federal Reserve has a monopoly on pricing our money.
That
And
is
as long
correct.
as this
Whoa.
exists,
Well, that's why I mentioned I want to pay only 50 cents an hour because that's what I think that's what the minimum wage was back in the early part of the 20th century.
Before inflation.
And I say, well, don't blame me for inflation. Blame the government. I'll pay you 50 cents an hour, and then the other $6.75 you can get from the government. How about that?
yeah, well,
I'm only kidding, Lloyd. I'm only kidding.
well, when the Federal Reserve has a monopoly on pricing our money,
Right.
there's
Bingo.
no accurate
Bingo.
there's no accurate representation of our capital. So you can't price it efficiently.
No, there's no
That's right.
benchmark.
No matter
There's
what
no
you do.
benchmark.
That's right.
Until we get rid of the Federal Reserve, we will never have capitalism.
Right.
It can't exist
Bingo.
because we're not using a system that accurately represents our capital.
Right. Well,
Did I blow a gasket or something?
No, you're absolutely right. The problem is systemic, as you say, and it's we talk about the surface, but we have to talk about the system in which we are working under, and the system we're working under is basically unconstitutional, never meant to be, and has distorted the entire marketplace and makes people reliant on the government. Thus, whatever the government does is benevolent, and whatever an employer does or anyone else does, boy, they're the bad guy. Hold on, I think Derek wants to say something.
Didn't Woodrow Wilson, after he passed the Federal Reserve Act in 1913, he wrote in regret saying that he sold out the country as far as democracy?
Oh yeah, right before he left
So
off.
right
yeah.
there, you can read it in the history. It's not a conspiracy. It's he said in regret. He sold. He passed that law because they were his lobby.
That's right.
That's why he was able to be president.
And you know when they passed that law? On the eve of Christmas Eve, I think 3 o'clock in the
Right.
morning. Isn't that
Right.
something that's
Wow.
typical? That's typical. You have an important thing to do. Very important, probably the most important piece of legislation ever. I mean, not that year, but ever. And you would do
Ever.
it on the eve of Christmas Eve at 3 o'clock in the morning. And of course, that's when you do it. That makes sense to me.
Yeah,
Well, that's the government,
yeah.
Okay, Lloyd, hey, thanks to me for calling in. Appreciate it. Thanks for your listenership. Bye-bye now. The problem is that what we are talking about is, well, should we have a minimum wage or a living wage, and how much should it be? Well, how much should it be? What they say, $15 is a livable wage. I did some research. I have some figures here somewhere. Hold on a second. I can find them if I got all my papers here lined up.
Well, for what part of the country are they talking about?
That's another question.
Yeah, that's another question.
Yeah, it's another question. Try to live on a good salary that you make here in Oklahoma, in California, and you'll have a problem.
So it's unfair from the get-go.
Yeah, I had some papers here that showed what the. Hold on a second. Here it is. Here it is. What they consider a livable wage, a living wage, I should say, is one adult is $11.21. For one adult and one child, it's $20.41. For two adults, for some reason, it goes down $16.31. For two adults and one child, it's $25.51. Right? For two adults and two children, who knows? The government, the office of so and so.
Research company, yeah.
30. Listen, two adults, two children, $32.60. Let's take this call. Are they on? Is
Mark from Tulsa. Go ahead,
Okay,
Mark.
Mark, you're on the line.
Good evening, sire. It's been a while.
Okay. Yes. No. Mark, I hate to be the one to correct you, Mark, but it's your eminence.
Oh, my gosh.
What's on your mind tonight, Mark?
You was talking about the school system.
Yeah.
I graduated high school in '72, so I'm just a young pup. But back then, they used to have vocational training as part of the school system, which they pretty well do not have anymore.
That's correct. Yeah, right.
And in personal opinion, I think they ought to go back to it and give the kids a aptitude test to see what they're qualified to do, and then help them learn in that field.
Right.
And then maybe you wouldn't have so many idiots running around out here that looking for a handout because they don't have any education to do anything.
Right. See, the thing is, it's not only a matter of education, it's a matter of skills. They have no skills. Yeah, Derek?
I'd
hold on.
rather do a job that I would like to do as opposed to a job that I could get paid higher for something that I don't care to do.
That's
basically.
another thing.
You know, you have...
It depends on your living status too, because if you've got a wife, 2 or 3 crumb
Yeah, it's
snatchers running
different.
around, you'll
different.
have to take that job you don't like to do, so you can pay the lights, gas, water.
You don't have that
all the other
luxury.
things.
You don't have that luxury
Yeah.
in that situation.
Yeah. Hey, Mark, thank you very much for calling. I assume when you said you gave me my title and would you call me
Your Eminence.
your eminence? So you
You know, he said sire.
Me, sire.
Sire, okay.
I assume that
That was back when
you
we
bowed
first
your.
started talking about pontification.
Yeah, that's right. I was wondering if you were bowing your head when you said that. I was just checking. You know, I can't see you. Hey, Mark, thanks a lot. I got another call. I got to go. Thank you very much
All
for
right.
calling in. Bye-bye. Hey, here we go. All right, James, thank you for calling Liberty Talk Radio on 1170 KFAQ. What's happening?
Oh, not a lot. I was listening to your show. I listen to it all the time, and just.
Well, how come you don't send me money?
Really enjoy your work.
Okay.
I just frustrated about the whole thing. Obama's been in there 4.5 years. He hasn't done anything right up until this point. And everybody just, it's like the world's changed so much
It has.
that everybody thinks that this, that he's there for them or there to help them, and he's not. He's as corrupt as they come.
That's right. Yeah, and listen, we haven't had the last good president, in my opinion, that we've had. And I'm not going to mention Ronald Reagan because I hear that all the time. Was Calvin
I'm
Coolidge?
sorry, but that's what I was going to say was Ronald Reagan. In my life, I was.
He may have been a lot better than others, but I mean, he's got a big dark side. The really last
I know.
good president was
They all do.
yeah.
They all do.
After
They all do it.
Calvin Coolidge, it was downhill from there on in. I got Derek wants to say,
I
hold on,
would say JFK.
JFK,
Yeah.
best
JFK.
president, worst
Last-
president we ever had, worst president we ever had.
told when he was executed, I was saying I'm not saying assassinated because I do believe in my heart he was executed.
I do too, yeah.
Who's that?
I was
JFK?
6 months old.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. Yeah, he had.
And it really brought the world to, brought the United States to a halt. We should have learned something then.
Well, we learned something is that you don't diss the Federal Reserve because he had an executive order
Exactly.
eliminating the Federal Reserve.
Yep.
And when he signed that
was
executive
trying to
order,
tell us-
he met with a bullet. Isn't that something?
A month later.
Yeah, in his speech in Dallas, he was trying to tell us the truth.
That's
he
right.
was trying to
That's right.
tell us the truth, and he was getting ready to spill the beans, and that's why I believe in my heart, he was eliminated. But it's just so disheartening that, now my children, you're right, the schools aren't teaching them anything. They shuffle them through and shuffle them out, and
Absolutely.
Assembly line education.
Yeah. It's not education.
Exactly.
Don't even call it education.
no, it's not even close.
Hey,
Now, that's not all teachers, because I did have a few good.
Oh, we've had
teachers.
some good ones.
I was-
Yeah.
we got to go to James. I'm sorry, I got to cut you off because we're going to break. Okay.
Thanks for your call.
All right. Thanks for calling.
All right.
Bye bye now.
Good talk.
Now you kids are probably saying to yourselves, hey, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna get the world by the tail and wrap it around and pull it down and put it in my pocket. Well, I'm here to tell you that you're probably gonna find out as you go out there that you're not going to amount to jack squat. You're gonna end up eating a steady diet of government cheese and living in a van down by the river.
Oh, too true.
Oh, God.
Yeah. You know, the goal of the minimum wage is to reduce poverty.
And eat government cheese.
And
Government cheese.
Eat government cheese down by the river.
that's right. Yeah. And folks, let me tell you something. When don't make the mistake I made. When I hire people with master's degrees, I hired a couple of people here from Clown College. It doesn't work. let me
Barnum
tell you.
Bailey.
Yeah.
Thank
All right.
you,
Let's
Joe.
see who's on the line.
Ken from Bixby.
Ken from Bixby. Ken, what's on your mind? Thank you for calling Liberty Talk Radio on
Joe
1170
got
KFAQ.
a couple of points on my mind. Number one, minimum wage is nothing more than a tax increase. That ain't
Good
too much
point.
to figure out.
That's
Good
a
point.
very
Number
true.
two,
Yeah, good point.
Amen,
Yeah,
brother.
yeah.
My first job is $1 an hour. I'm rounding it off. I think it was $1.25, but it's $1 an hour. And I applied with 4 or 5 other guys. My employer hired 3 of us. Said, you'll all get $1 an hour. He said, but after the first week, one of you is going to be gone. After the second week, another's going to be gone. And the third week, the guy that hangs on gets $2 an hour.
There you
Wow.
go.
Get the efficiency out of it.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I just thought I'd bring up those 2 points.
Oh, they'd throw him in jail
Hey,
now.
Ken, thanks for bringing that in. Listen, why don't you send me an email with your mailing address and a T-shirt size? I'd like to send you a Liberty Talk Radio T-shirt for that comment, okay? For starting out at $1 an hour and surviving, okay? That'll be our trophy
There
of the
you
year.
go.
Okay, thanks a million for calling. Bye-bye.
Love your show, Joe. Keep it up, buddy.
Thank you.
Later.
You know, when they say it reduces poverty, what they do not understand is it increases poverty because employers are reluctant to hire someone that they have to take the time to train because they have absolutely no knowledge nor skills. They have to train them. They don't know if they're going to work out. They have to pay them while they train. In other words, they go back to school and the employer pays for the schooling on their own time, right? Then they pray that they do a good job. Many don't last very long on the job for a host of reasons, and they have to start the process all over again. Well, let me give you an example. I have an industrial health testing company, right? Now, if someone came up to me, I'll take a minority, and you fill in the blank, what kind of minority, I don't care. It makes no difference. And the kid came up to me and said, Mr. Cristiano, I'll tell you what I'll do. Hire me for 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, whatever it is, and pay me nothing. Sounds like what I did when I went to the cameras.
Yeah.
But pay me nothing, and at the end of 3 weeks, I will guarantee you not hiring me at a decent wage will be your biggest mistake.
Wow.
Really?
I like that. I like that.
Would I hire that kid?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sure you would.
Now, if this is some black kid from a ghetto neighborhood who can't find a job, he's got himself a job.
Yeah.
Now, my starting pay is almost 3 times the minimum wage now. But the people who work there, guess what? They run the company, and they know that. People who come to my company know that they don't have a boss. They are the boss. Mm-hmm. Anything happens that screws up, they know they got to fix. For example, we had a real problem with one of our testing trucks, that expensive booth, because it was in an accident many years ago, and it broke up the structure of the hearing booth, very expensive hearing booth, right? And it came apart inside the testing trailer, right? The employees took it home. One guy had a big garage, on his property. I don't mean a car garage, regular car garage, rather, but a big one. Put it in there. Got his friends. They welded the whole thing back together again. Got it back on the road Monday. Never told me about it. I mean, that's what you want. And by the way, these guys get paid well, and they get bonuses for all this stuff. When I heard about it, I paid them. Okay, we got another call on the front. We got Doug. Doug, you're on the line. Thanks for calling Liberty Talk Radio on 1170 KFAQ.
How you doing tonight?
Okay, I guess I'm steaming tonight. Go ahead.
You can get rid of the Federal Reserve, but you still haven't created the value of the dollar. The only way you're going to be able to establish the value of the dollar is agree to give a set of stable items in exchange for so many dollars. Items that will keep you alive or keep you warm or feed your family, such as coal, cotton, corn, potatoes, and that kind of thing.
So survival stuff.
Then you establish that kind of a value, the dollar's going to float.
Well, everything you mentioned are items of value, intrinsic value, items of value. Doug?
Would gold be one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure. It could be anything of value. I think what he's saying is anything of value. You're absolutely correct. And
it has to be something that serves a purpose. It can't be miscellaneous things. It has to be known, stable items.
Commodity.
Like how long a bushel of corn will keep a person alive.
Yeah, but employers today pay in fiat currency.
Yeah.
That's the point. That's the problem. The employers today that's all they pay. And you know what's strange? If God forbid you pay somebody if someone said, hey, if I work here, would you give me, and whatever an exchange is, I don't want any money. I want whatever the case may be. Guy goes to jail. In other words, it's not a voluntary agreement. And that's unconstitutional for the government not to allow two people to go into voluntary agreement. The whole system is unconstitutional. And then what they're talking about is, should it be $15 an hour or $12.50? And should it be a minimum wage or a living wage? That's all garbage. It has nothing to do with the issue.
Well, it has to do with the value of the dollar, and the dollar is continuing to go down the tube.
Right, absolutely.
Until it destabilizes, there is no such a thing as inflation. It's the value of the dollar.
That's great. Well, wait till there's a crash and a loaf of bread costs $20. I wonder what's going to happen to the minimum wage. Hey, thanks a lot for calling, Doug. Appreciate you listening to Liberty Talk Radio. Appreciate it. Bye-bye now. There are plenty of points and plenty of avenues that you can take on this thing. And but the thing is, we're not talking the issue. We're talking about how much it should be. Well, how do you determine that? I mean, what if you have two people? One is some young kid that comes in, and you're going to pay him $15 an hour, and then another woman comes in. She says, well, I'm a single woman with 3 children at home. Well, are you going to pay her $15 an hour? No, you can't do that. Not under with the way they think. You should pay her a living wage. Well, a single woman with 3 kids, she'll need about $35 an hour.
So
you better pay her. You better pay her $35 an hour. It's not going to be a livable wage. It's insane. How do you? And you're going to have bureaucrats in Washington determining.
Oh yeah.
What a living wage is
for that person.
That's insane. That's absolutely insane. So if you can't determine what it is, how do you satisfy it? I mean, first of all, you can't. The only people that can determine what a living wage is the employee themselves. When they know when a woman is going out with a guy and she says, well, I go out with this guy. If I get pregnant, he doesn't marry me and I have a child, this and that. Boy, am I really, up the creek without a paddle, But no, they have kids because why? Because we have a guarantee from the government for welfare and food stamps and this and that. And then we have a guaranteed wage of $15 an hour. Do whatever you want. Party. It's all over the place. Well, we're out of time, aren't we? Folks, thanks a lot for listening to another version, I guess, of Liberty Talk Radio. I want to thank you very much for listening in. You stay well and stay tuned, okay? Bye-bye now.